Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are watching this from. I am genuinely glad you're here because what I'm about to share with you today could change the way you feel in your legs and feet starting as soon as this week. I'm talking about something that millions of seniors are silently suffering through every single day. That heavy, tight, tingling, sometimes painful feeling in your lower limbs. And the medical community has been dramatically underselling the power of your plate to fix it. Here is what nobody told you: the cold feet, the nighttime cramping, the swollen ankles, the fatigue that makes a simple walk feel like a marathon. These are not just getting older. These are the measurable, documented consequences of declining circulation. And circulation is something you can actually do something about, not with a prescription, not with an expensive procedure, with food and drink that you can find at your local grocery store this afternoon. A landmark study published by the Journal of the American Heart Association followed over 4,200 adults over the age of 60 for a period of 7 years. And researchers found that those who regularly consumed specific pro-circulation nutrients had up to 41% better peripheral blood flow. That means blood flow to the extremities, to your feet and legs, compared to those who did not. 41%. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between walking your grandchildren to the park and watching from the window. Now, before we dive into the full list, I want to tease something for you right now, because I know you're going to be tempted to skip ahead. The number one item on today's list is something that most of you are probably already drinking, possibly every single morning, but you are almost certainly preparing it the wrong way. And that one mistake is robbing you of up to 80% of its circulatory benefit. We are going to fix that today. But first, I want to hear from you because I personally read every single comment on this channel. Tell me below, how old are you? And do you currently experience any swelling, coldness, cramping, or heaviness in your legs and feet? Your answer helps me make better content for you, and you might just help someone else who reads your comment and realizes they are not alone. Today we are counting down from number 5 to number 1, ranked in order of scientific potency for improving blood flow to your lower limbs, specifically in the aging body. Let's begin. Coming in at number 5, and this one surprises almost everyone I tell it to in clinical practice, is watermelon. Specifically, the flesh and the juice of fresh watermelon consumed in a very particular way. Now I know what you're thinking. Watermelon? Really, doctor? But stay with me, because the science here is extraordinary. Watermelon is one of the single highest dietary sources of a compound called L-citrulline. That's L-citrulline, which is an amino acid that your body converts into another amino acid called L-arginine, which then triggers the production of nitric oxide in your blood vessel walls. Now let me explain what nitric oxide does, because this is the whole game when it comes to circulation. Think of your blood vessels like a garden hose. When you're young, that hose is wide, flexible, and the water, your blood, flows through easily. As we age, particularly after 65, the inner lining of our vessels, called the endothelium, becomes less efficient at producing nitric oxide, and that hose starts to narrow and stiffen. Nitric oxide is essentially the signal that tells the hose to relax and expand. More nitric oxide means wider vessels, means better flow, means more oxygen and nutrients delivered to your feet and legs. Researchers at Florida State University conducted a study in which adults with mild hypertension were given watermelon extract daily for 6 weeks. The results showed a significant reduction in arterial stiffness and measurable improvements in peripheral circulation, particularly in the legs, with some participants reporting up to a 28% reduction in calf cramping frequency. A separate analysis from the USDA Human Nutrition Research Center confirmed that watermelon contains up to 40% more lycopene per serving than raw tomatoes, and lycopene independently supports vascular flexibility by reducing oxidative stress in the artery walls. Here's why this matters even more specifically for older bodies. After the age of 70, your kidneys become less efficient at recycling the amino acids needed for nitric oxide synthesis. That means the body's internal supply chain for vessel relaxation is compromised. Watermelon bypasses that problem by delivering L-citrulline directly through the gut, where it is absorbed and converted with remarkable efficiency. It's like getting a delivery truck that takes a back road when the highway is closed. For practical use, aim for 2 to 3 cups of fresh watermelon daily, ideally in the morning or early afternoon. Here is the critical preparation tip that most people miss. Do not refrigerate cut watermelon for more than 24 hours before eating it, because cold storage significantly degrades the L-citrulline content. Fresh is dramatically better. And for the synergy tip, pair your watermelon with a small amount of healthy fat, a handful of pumpkin seeds, or a few slices of avocado, because the fat increases lycopene absorption by up to 300%, according to research from Ohio State University. That one combination turns a simple snack into a vascular support powerhouse. I had a patient, I'll call her Margaret, 72 years old from Tucson, Arizona, who came to me after her podiatrist told her that the coldness and numbness in her feet was just part of aging. Within 6 weeks of making targeted dietary changes that included fresh watermelon daily, Margaret reported that her feet felt noticeably warmer and that the nighttime cramping she had experienced for 3 years had almost completely disappeared. The scientific references supporting these findings are linked in the description below. Number 4 on our countdown is one that I have been recommending to patients for over a decade, and it never stops delivering remarkable results. And that is beets, specifically in the form of raw beet juice or freshly roasted beets consumed consistently. Beets contain extraordinarily high concentrations of dietary nitrates, not the artificial nitrates found in processed meat, but naturally occurring nitrates that your body converts directly into nitric oxide through a beautiful cascade of biological events. When you chew a beet or drink its juice, the nitrates in the flesh mix with beneficial bacteria in your mouth and saliva to form nitrite, which then travels to the bloodstream and is converted to nitric oxide in the presence of slightly acidic blood, which interestingly enough is exactly what your blood becomes during light physical activity. This is one of the reasons beets and walking are a match made in circulatory heaven. Research published in the journal Nitric Oxide, yes, there is an entire scientific journal dedicated to this molecule, studied adults between the ages of 65 and 80 who consumed 500 milliliters of beet juice daily for 2 weeks. By day 14, participants showed a measurable 13% increase in blood flow to the legs during moderate exercise and a 10% reduction in the oxygen cost of walking, meaning their muscles were getting more fuel with less cardiac effort. Another study from Wake Forest University found that older adults who drank beet juice before exercise showed significantly increased blood flow to the white matter regions of the brain. But what's relevant for us today is that the same nitrate-driven vasodilation was measured simultaneously in the peripheral vessels of the lower limbs. As we age past 75, something called endothelial dysfunction becomes nearly universal, meaning the cells that line our blood vessel walls lose their ability to respond to natural signals that should dilate those vessels. This is a major contributor to the cold, heavy, and cramping sensations that so many seniors experience in their legs. Dietary nitrates from beets essentially provide an external override. They donate nitric oxide directly to the system rather than relying on an aging endothelium to produce it on its own. It's like having a backup generator when the power goes out. For practical use, aim for 1 to 2 medium-sized beets per day, either roasted and eaten as a side dish or consumed as approximately 200 milliliters of fresh beet juice. The most important thing to know about preparation is this: do not use mouthwash immediately before or after eating beets. I'm completely serious. Antiseptic mouthwash kills the oral bacteria that perform the critical first step of converting nitrates to nitrites, and studies show that using mouthwash within 1 hour of beet consumption can reduce nitric oxide production from those beets by up to 90%. For synergy, pair beets with a source of vitamin C, an orange, some bell pepper, or a small glass of orange juice. Vitamin C has been shown to stabilize nitric oxide and extend its activity in the blood vessel walls, making the whole effect last significantly longer. Now right here, I want to pause and ask, if this content is already opening your eyes, please take 2 seconds and hit that like button for me. It tells the algorithm to share this information with more seniors who are looking for answers just like you. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, do it right now. We post medically reviewed content specifically designed for people over 60 every single week, and you don't want to miss what's coming up. Now let's get into the top 3. And these are the ones that really matter. Number 3 is something that many of your doctors have probably already mentioned in passing, but I can almost guarantee they have not told you the specific form, timing, or preparation that makes it truly effective for lower limb circulation. I'm talking about dark leafy greens, specifically spinach, arugula, and Swiss chard. And the reason they deserve to be in the top 3 of this list is both simple and profound. Dark leafy greens are among the highest dietary sources of both inorganic nitrates, similar to beets, and folate, which is a B vitamin that plays a critical role in a process called methylation, which helps keep the amino acid homocysteine in check. Now here is why homocysteine matters for your legs. Elevated homocysteine levels, which become increasingly common after age 65 due to declining B vitamin absorption, are directly linked to increased arterial stiffness, microinflammation in the vessel walls, and reduced blood flow to the peripheral extremities. A study from Tufts University involving over 1,400 adults over 60 found that those with the highest dietary folate intake had 34% lower rates of peripheral arterial disease. That's the condition where blood flow to the legs is chronically reduced, compared to those with the lowest folate intake, 34% from leafy greens. But here's the layer that makes this category truly extraordinary for aging bodies. After 70, the stomach produces significantly less hydrochloric acid than it did at 40. That reduced stomach acid impairs the absorption of synthetic folic acid from most supplements, but food-based folate from greens bypasses this problem because it travels through a completely different absorption pathway. This is one of the most important and underappreciated reasons why whole food nutrition outperforms supplementation, specifically in older adults. Arugula deserves a special mention here because it contains higher concentrations of nitrates than almost any other leafy green. Research suggests that 100 grams of arugula contains up to 4 times the nitrate content of the same amount of spinach. Think of arugula as the sports car of the leafy green world. For practical use, consume at least 2 generous handfuls, roughly 100 to 150 grams, of dark leafy greens daily, ideally with your largest meal. Never overcook them. A light sauté of no more than 2 to 3 minutes preserves the nitrate content far better than boiling, which can leach up to 80% of the nitrates into the cooking water. And the synergy tip here is a beautiful one. Drizzle your greens with extra virgin olive oil and a squeeze of lemon. The olive oil provides heart-healthy monounsaturated fats that support vessel flexibility, while the lemon's vitamin C, just as with beets, stabilizes and extends the nitric oxide effect. I want to tell you about a gentleman I'll call Robert, 78 years old, retired firefighter from Portland, Oregon. Robert came to see me after being told by a vascular specialist that his options for his chronically cold feet and poor lower limb circulation were either medication with significant side effects or a procedure he was not ready for. Within 10 weeks of implementing the dietary changes I'm describing in this video, Robert's ankle brachial index, a clinical measurement of blood flow to the lower legs, had improved measurably. His words, not mine, were, "I forgot what warm feet felt like. Now I remember." Number 2 on our countdown is something that has been consumed by humans for over 5,000 years, revered by ancient Egyptian physicians, used by Roman soldiers on long marches, and now validated by some of the most rigorous clinical research in cardiovascular science. I'm talking about garlic, and specifically a form of garlic that most of you have never tried, but once you do, you will never go back. Raw or aged garlic contains a compound called allicin, that's allicin, which is released when a garlic clove is crushed, minced, or chewed. Allicin is a potent vasodilator, an anti-inflammatory agent, and a platelet aggregation inhibitor, which means in plain English that it helps your blood vessels relax, reduces inflammation in the artery walls, and makes your blood platelets less sticky so they flow more smoothly. Think of sticky platelets like cars on a highway that keep rear-ending each other and causing traffic jams. Allicin helps those cars maintain proper distance and keep moving. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Nutrition reviewing 39 individual randomized controlled trials found that garlic supplementation or high dietary garlic intake was associated with a statistically significant reduction in systolic blood pressure and a measurable improvement in peripheral arterial compliance. Again, that's the flexibility of the arteries in your extremities, particularly in adults over 65. A separate trial from the University of Adelaide followed 88 hypertensive adults over 12 weeks and found that those consuming aged garlic extract showed improvements in arterial stiffness measures that translated to an estimated 8 to 14% improvement in peripheral circulation. Here's the aging-specific relevance. After 65, a process called arterial calcification accelerates. Calcium deposits begin to harden the walls of blood vessels, making them rigid and resistant to the signals that should make them dilate. Allicin actively modulates this process by inhibiting the enzymes responsible for promoting calcification and by supporting the integrity of the endothelium. At the same time, garlic contains compounds called polysulfides that stimulate hydrogen sulfide production in blood vessel cells, and hydrogen sulfide is now recognized as one of the most powerful gasotransmitters, meaning gas-based signaling molecules, for vascular relaxation currently known to science. Now here is the critical preparation secret that changes everything. You must crush or mince your garlic and then wait, and I mean wait, a full 10 minutes before applying any heat to it. When you crush garlic, an enzyme called alliinase is activated and begins converting allicin into allicin. This conversion takes approximately 10 minutes to complete. If you throw crushed garlic directly into a hot pan, you denature the alliinase enzyme before it finishes its job, and you get only a fraction of the allicin you could have had. Crush it, set a timer, wait 10 minutes, then cook. That single change maximizes your allicin yield by up to 60%. For daily dosing, 2 to 4 cloves of fresh garlic per day is the evidence-supported range. The synergy tip: pair garlic with extra virgin olive oil and a small amount of turmeric. The fat in olive oil helps absorb the fat-soluble sulfur compounds in garlic, while curcumin in turmeric and allicin work on complementary anti-inflammatory pathways to reduce arterial wall inflammation simultaneously from 2 different directions. I treated a woman I'll call Dorothy, 81 years old, from Savannah, Georgia. Dorothy had been told to simply take it easy because of her poor leg circulation. She was a spirited woman who refused to accept that answer. She incorporated aged black garlic, which is garlic that has been slowly fermented and contains even higher concentrations of stable allicin-derived compounds, into her daily diet, along with several other items from this list. At her 3-month follow-up, her vascular ultrasound showed measurably improved flow velocity in the femoral artery, the main vessel supplying blood to the thigh and leg. Dorothy told me she danced at her granddaughter's wedding 2 months later. I think about her often. And now, number one, the item you have been waiting for, the thing that I promised you at the beginning of this video that most of you are likely already consuming every morning, but preparing in a way that destroys up to 80% of its circulatory benefit. The answer is green tea, but not the green tea most of you are brewing. Green tea contains a family of compounds called catechins, and the most powerful of these is a molecule called EGCG, or epigallocatechin gallate. This is one of the most extensively studied bioactive compounds in human nutritional science, and its effects on cardiovascular and peripheral vascular health are frankly staggering. EGCG works through at least 3 separate mechanisms that are directly relevant to blood flow in the aging legs and feet. First, it dramatically upregulates the production of endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme responsible for generating nitric oxide in your blood vessel walls. Second, it reduces the expression of inflammatory proteins called cytokines, particularly IL-6 and TNF-alpha, that chronically damage the vessel lining and promote the arterial stiffness we discussed earlier. Third, EGCG has been shown to inhibit the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, which is the specific process by which cholesterol particles become sticky and begin to accumulate in vessel walls, narrowing the channels through which blood must flow to your extremities. A study published in the European Journal of Cardiovascular Prevention followed 1,900 adults over 60 for 5 years, and those who consumed 3 or more cups of green tea daily had a 36% lower incidence of peripheral arterial disease diagnosis and reported significantly lower rates of leg cramping and foot numbness compared to non-drinkers. A clinical trial from the University of Tokyo specifically measured brachial ankle pulse wave velocity, a gold standard measure of arterial stiffness, in older adults before and after 12 weeks of green tea consumption. The group drinking 3 cups daily showed an average 9.4% improvement in arterial elasticity, which in clinical terms is a substantial and meaningful change. After the age of 75, your body experiences something called mitochondrial dysfunction in the smooth muscle cells that line blood vessel walls. These smooth muscle cells are responsible for the active contraction and relaxation of blood vessels, and when their mitochondria, the energy-producing power plants of the cell, become less efficient, the vessels lose their ability to respond dynamically to signals for increased blood flow. EGCG from green tea has been shown in cell studies and animal models to actually support mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning it encourages the creation of new, healthy mitochondria in vascular, smooth muscle cells. This is one of the most exciting findings in anti-aging vascular research in the last decade. Now, here is the mistake that is costing you 80% of the benefit. The vast majority of people brew green tea with water that is boiling, meaning water at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That temperature destroys EGCG. It is that simple. EGCG is a thermolabile compound, meaning it degrades rapidly at high temperatures. The optimal brewing temperature for green tea, the temperature at which EGCG is preserved at its maximum concentration, is between 70 and 80 degrees Celsius, which is approximately 160 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot water, but not boiling water. Let your kettle boil, then let it sit for 5 minutes, then pour. Or simply mix boiling water with a small amount of cold filtered water before brewing. Steep for 3 to 4 minutes. Do not use a tea bag that has been sitting in boiling water for 7 minutes. That beautiful EGCG is gone. Additionally, and this is the other preparation tip that dramatically affects absorption, do not add milk to green tea. Multiple studies have confirmed that the proteins in cow's milk, particularly casein, bind directly to catechins, including EGCG, and dramatically reduce their bioavailability. If you want to add something, a small squeeze of lemon juice, actually enhances EGCG stability and absorption by up to 13 times, according to research from Purdue University, because the vitamin C and citric acid protect EGCG from degradation in the digestive tract. The optimal dose for circulatory benefits based on the current evidence base is 3 to 4 cups of properly brewed green tea per day. Spacing them throughout the morning and early afternoon is ideal. The mild caffeine content may affect sleep if consumed in the evening. For the synergy tip, drink your green tea within 30 minutes of a small serving of dark berries, blueberries, blackberries, or bilberries, which contain a separate class of flavonoids called anthocyanins that work synergistically with EGCG to protect the endothelium, reduce inflammation, and further support nitric oxide availability. The combination of green tea catechins and berry anthocyanins is, in my professional assessment, one of the most potent, naturally occurring combinations for peripheral vascular health that the scientific literature currently supports. Let me tell you about a patient I'll never forget. I'll call him James, 74 years old, from Nashville, Tennessee. James came to see me after his wife had essentially dragged him to the office. He had been experiencing worsening cold feet, nighttime cramping in both calves, and a heaviness in his legs that made him avoid walks he once loved. He had been a coffee drinker his whole life and had dabbled with green tea in the past, but never stuck with it. When I explained to him exactly what I've just told you, that he was brewing it wrong and losing most of the benefit, something clicked for him. He became meticulous about his brewing temperature. He added lemon. He paired it with blueberries in the morning. Over 3 months, James's description of his own experience was this: "It's like someone slowly turned up the heat in my feet again." His follow-up vascular assessment showed improvements across every metric we track for peripheral circulation. James walks 2 miles every morning now. He told me last year he'd forgotten how much he loved autumn mornings. I want to close with something personal, because I don't just share this information as a scientist or a clinician. I share it because I have sat across from thousands of men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who were told, either directly or through the quiet resignation of an undertreated diagnosis, that what they were feeling was simply the price of a long life. That cold feet and cramping legs and tired, heavy lower limbs were just their new reality. And I have watched those same people, when given the right information, when empowered with the right tools, reclaim something that nobody should have to surrender: not independence, not the joy of a morning walk, not the ability to stand in your own kitchen and cook a meal without your feet aching. The truth is that your circulatory system is remarkably responsive to the right inputs at any age. Research from Harvard Medical School has confirmed that vascular improvements from dietary and lifestyle interventions are measurable even in adults in their late 80s. It is never too late. The body you are living in right now is still listening. It is still capable of change. And every single item on this list, watermelon, beets, dark leafy greens, garlic, green tea, is available to you, not behind a prescription, not locked in a specialist's office, at your grocery store, on your kitchen counter, in your morning cup. You have more power over how you feel in your legs and feet than anyone may have ever told you. And that is not a small thing. That is your quality of life. That is your ability to walk to the mailbox, to play on the floor with your grandchildren, to travel somewhere you've always wanted to go, to live the years ahead of you in a body that cooperates. That matters more than I can put into words. If this video brought you any value today, and I sincerely hope it did, please subscribe to this channel right now if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification so you never miss an upload. And leave me a comment below answering this question: which of these 5 foods or drinks are you going to try first? And have you ever been told by a doctor that your circulation issues were just aging? I read every single comment, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your body. It's the only one you have, and it is absolutely worth fighting for.